Hey, how's it going, guys? This is Herschel from High School Top 200, and this video is brought to you by Fine Line Barbers in Hamilton. Remember to go get your game day fades from 2 to 6 in Hamilton at Fine Line Barbers. Please ask for Vinny and get your discounts for saying High School Top 200 once you sit down, and also when you're part of the list for the top 60, top 100, and top 200, show them your name, show them your ID, and you get another discount. Uh, this topic is going to be about Auckland Teams versus the rest. And I was having a discussion last night with this kid on my page, and I'm not going to name this kid. I'm not going to say what his name is or what school he's from or anything like this, but he's from Auckland, and he's not the only one that thinks like this. He thinks the same as everybody else, and like even for myself. And this is a reason why I kind of started. Another reason why I started High School Top 200 is because when you're a young kid in your school, you think that the guys in your first 15 are the best players in the country, and then when the New Zealand secondary school comes out, you wonder why they're not in their secondary schools. And so this is kind of like what everybody else is like, because you only talk about your area and your competition. You think that those guys in your area, in your competition, are the best in the country, and they should be. Then they'll wipe out everybody else. And so this kid, he was talking to me about it, and he was saying, "Well, I don't think your rankings are fair because your guys around the country don't really play anybody else that's good." And that's understandable to think. I understand what he's thinking about, because he's got this outlook where the 1A comp is the best in the country, which I think is debatable with the Super 8 right now. Also, that you have you have more players than basically everybody else in the country in terms of your competition with the 1A and the 1B, A pool and B pool. And also because not all the time, but a lot of the time, you'll have a lot of guys coming out of the Blues region that make New Zealand secondary school. So, understand where he's coming from. But that's not the case. I don't feel, I don't think that necessarily the Blues region or the 1A comp has the best teams in the country. And here's why. And I explained to him last night as well, is that if you look back in the national competition, in the national top fours for New Zealand, Auckland teams haven't taken that out. And I have a theory for that as well, because I think that Auckland teams only win the 1A, and that's their end goal, is to win the 1A, and then that's it. So that when it comes down to the national championships, they haven't had the national championships as their main goal. They've had that as a secondary goal to the 1A. And that's why I think that a lot of Auckland teams slip up in the top four, because once they get to the point of the 1A, they go up to Whangarei or they go to North Harbour, and then they just wipe out those teams, and then by then they're kind of checked out already out of the rugby season, because their main goal is, there we go, 1A, we've done it. I'm going to just rest up for now. And then it comes to the time where they get to Rotorua in the top four, and then all of a sudden they bail out. And I think that comes down to a mental thing where coaches just say, let's go, we've got to win this 1A, we've got to win this 1A, win this 1A, and then they don't actually end up winning nationals. I think St. Kennigan's last year, if they actually had all their players that weren't injured, like Braden Eno and that, I think that they actually would have won. I really do. But again, that's not the case. So I think that they have the best players, but in terms of the best teams, they don't. So I went and had a look back, and I'm going to take this from when I was at school in '96. This is how many national championship teams come out of Auckland since '96. Okay, so that's it's good, sort of 20-something years, 21 years or something. So from '96 to 2015, only 7 Blues teams have won the national championship. The 7 Blues teams, only 7 of them have won the national championship. 11 have come from the Chiefs, 3 have come from the Hurricanes, 3 have come from the Crusaders, which is all Christchurch boys, and then Highlanders have 1, which is Otago boys. And that one was a draw to Rotorua boys in '98, I think, when Richard McCaw was there. I think that was the last year that they actually won it, but they drew. And And I think that year as well was Church College's best year. The school that I went to, Church College, I think that was the best year. We had Jamie McQueen, who ended up being the MVP of the MVP of like what you call Northern Regions, and that was like the old competition. A lot of you older guys who actually watch this thing will know what that is, and that's where a lot of the guys came through reps, and so it was done different. So to say that Auckland has the best teams and stronger teams than everybody else is not the case, not at all. And in a lot of cases as well, Auckland teams have to be grateful for the fact that they have the draw card of the 1A, as well as the money to get players from outside of other schools to come into Auckland. And that's what a lot of kids don't know, is that they think that that guy was born and raised in Auckland. Or see, I'm an Auckland guy myself. Like, I'm born and raised in Auckland, but I consider myself a Chiefs guy. I'm Waikato hard out. And that's because I've adopted to this life here, and I love the Chiefs ever since they were losing. So like, I've come through that, and a lot of guys that are from Auckland and a lot of kids that are from Auckland don't realise that a lot of guys that play in Auckland schools aren't actually from there. And I'm not too sure why they think that, because they have guys at their own school who are not actually from that area in which they live in. They come from boarding schools, they come from Tonga, they come from Samoa, Fiji, or they come from out of Auckland and have been recruited to that school and are given scholarships. So even for example, like AJ Moore from Kings, who's actually from Hastings, he actually could have been at Hastings Boys this year and still been a number one team as well as being at Kings. So both ways he would have won. Like, that's just kind of how it is. But he is not an Auckland guy, and neither is Balin Sullivan or even Joe Johnston, for that case. Like, Carlos Price isn't either, and then Mags get a lot of guys from up north and from around the country, as well as also Sacred Heart goes to Tonga. So everyone, so teams in Auckland do a lot of recruiting and bring players in from other places, and that's normal, and that's obvious. But for the average student who doesn't know this kind of stuff, their understanding of it is that they are from their school and they just don't know any better. Or, they don't have any idea of where they came from. It's like, oh yeah, he goes to our school, he must be from here. So all in all, you could have that argument that Auckland teams are better, and you can have the same argument from outside saying that they're not. The better players, even in another argument, you could say that Auckland has a lot more better players, even though they recruit a lot into the system of Auckland. But then again, Auckland has their own great players as well. I mean, like, for instance, you could get, let's say Tamaki College. You could get Tamaki and put him together with someone like Papatoe, and you could probably have a full strength. You could have like a full strength 1A competing team. You could do that with Mangere College and Southern Cross. You could also do that with Liston and Waitakere or someone like that. Even Howick and Botany Downs, you could put those two schools together and then they could actually compete. So like, even the draw of players putting two teams together would make a strong one. You couldn't do that here in Hamilton. Like, you couldn't do that in Rotorua. Like, you couldn't do that where they could actually compete against the Super 8 teams. It's a bit different that way. So in terms of the amount of players that you have that are really good in Auckland is a lot more than everybody else. The amount of players that you could put two teams together and actually be a really strong team, and they can play all around. And so that's the... So whatever side that you stand on, you do have an argument. But for me and myself, and what I've seen, is that Auckland does have a lot of good players, a lot more good players, but in terms of teams, I've got to go with the rest. And that's me for today. And look forward to that Southland and Otago game. Big tradition. And also the big ones around Auckland. Mags and Grammar is going to be a massive one. St. Kennigan's and St. Peter's, to see how St. Peter's responds to another win, to see if they can get that other win. Hamilton Boys and St. Paul's Collegiate will be another big one down here. And all the rest of them. And good luck to all those guys that made the Premier one for Wellington as well. Good on you fellas. Bishop Fiat and White It Up and So yeah, keep in touch and jump on all my social medias at HS Top 200 on Twitter, also HS Top 200 on Snapchat, and also on my Facebook High School Top 200. And subscribe to my YouTube channel. Share it around with your friends and family, and let them know what's going on in First Team Rugby. Right, peace.